go talk more quarterbacks here. Drew Lock. What is his future with the Denver Broncos? Ian Rapoport on the Pat McAfee show, by the way, says that teams have called about a potential Drew Lock trade. Also says, however, the Broncos have not come close to trading him. Now, that could change, Rapoport says, if a Deshaun Watson or a Russell Wilson actually becomes available. Which is interesting that other teams would be calling about Drew Lock. Denver's in kind of an, I don't know if awkward's the right word for it, but how about unique situation with their young, potentially franchise quarterback, right? 2020, average, below average, maybe a little bit worse. The QBR is fine-ish. It's 49.2, not great. The touchdown-interception ratio, not good, about 1-to-1. The yards, I think he missed some time again, not great. The completion percentage, also not very good. But Drew Lock's style of play was, I'm going to throw vertically. And they struggled throwing the ball deep downfield. You look at what Drew Lock has done then in his NFL career, and you've got 2 years of mixed sample size. It's barely even a full season due to injuries. The 2019 season, I tried to warn you guys, was overhyped because Denver won games, but Lock wasn't doing a ton. He was a little bit more safe with the football. 3 interceptions, but you can look at the QBR, their ESPN stat. It's actually worse than 2020. So now you're in a weird position with Drew Lock, where unless you can get a Deshaun Watson or a Wilson, or if someone falls to you maybe in the first round, does it make sense to move on already? Probably not. Probably want to give him at least 1 more year just to see what he can actually do. So what do you think? I'll put everyone on the spot here because I don't know the answer. It's probably a maybe. But is Drew Lock the answer at quarterback for the Denver Broncos? If you agree with that, type in A. If you disagree with it, go ahead and type in D. If I have to pick one, probably going to lean D for disagree, but I also still want to see him get a 3rd season. So let's see what happens. But get your votes in. A for agree or D for disagree. Denver Broncos rumors here. How about Jacoby Brissett to the Denver Broncos? Once again, Ben Volin of the Boston Globe throwing in some juicy NFL quarterback notes, I'll call them. Mentions that Brissett could be an option for the Denver Broncos. Now, I think Denver's plan this offseason, barring the ability to get a Russell Wilson or a Deshaun Watson, is to give Drew Lock a 3rd year, or close to really going to be a full 2nd year, I should say, because he missed time in the first 2 years. His 3rd chance at being the team's starting quarterback. And if that's the route you're going to go, especially considering the quarterback injury history of Drew Lock, getting a better veteran backup quarterback makes a lot of sense for the Denver Broncos. And Jacoby Brissett would be one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't think he's a true starter, but I think it makes some sense for Denver and for others to explore him as a possible fit. Now, Volin mentioned a bunch of different teams. Let's go one by one here. Steelers, Eagles, Saints, all tight on cap space, although Philadelphia did just hire Nick Sirianni, their Colts former offensive coordinator. So there's the connection there. And if you want to back up behind Jalen Hurts, Brissett makes some sense. Some other teams where there is at least a somewhat more feasible path to early playing time. The Denver Broncos, who we'll talk more in depth again in just a second. The Niners, okay? The Bears, maybe let's go with Foles. The Patriots, by the way, might be his best chance to start if they don't find a new quarterback there. But for Brissett, you look at what he's done over his NFL career. This past year, he didn't do much of anything. There was a short yardage package for him. So in terms of his play in 2020, ignore it. It does not count. 2019, there were a couple of very positive outlier games, but across the board, Brissett's been okay. He's been okay. 60.8% completion percentage, a little under 3,000 yards in a not full 16-game season. Does a great job of not turning the football over, and that matters. He's done it throughout his career. Also hasn't been the best about making big plays. He's not someone, at least I believe, who's going to elevate a team in a significant fashion. But if you're looking for a backup, if you're looking for a veteran, someone who could maybe push a younger quarterback and try and make him better, I think Brissett makes a lot of sense for the Denver Broncos. And even though I will forever claim victory on Brett Rippon being an NFL guy out of Boise, he's not the vet backup type you want. Jeff Driscoll, well, he got paid because he played good in one game against the Cowboys, but he's not very good either. They're under contract, but you can cut them pretty easily if you wanted to. So if you want someone who could be a backup quarterback, who could be behind Drew Lock, and if you had to, you could start him if Lock gets hurt or if he struggles, but also isn't someone who's going to be brought in and Lock's going to go, oh my God, I just lost the job. It's going to be someone more to push Lock. I do think Brissett makes sense. And if you're going to keep Drew Lock as your quarterback, I think it makes sense for the Denver Broncos to go out and get a veteran quarterback of some type. So should the Broncos add one? Yes or no question here. If you think that they should, well, type in one for at least one veteran backup, right? If you don't think that they should, I want you guys to type in 0 for no. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. 1 for yes, 0 for no. Let's talk to Deshaun Watson once again here. The Houston Chronicle Texans beat writer John McClain, no, not that one, says it's time for Houston to entertain a Deshaun Watson deal, and that's significant since this is at least viewed as the #1 Texans insider. Now, the Houston Texans so far have rebuffed teams as they've tried to call and trying to explore getting Deshaun Watson. Now, McClain mentioned 5 teams, who we'll get to here in a second. The ones that he pushed as making the most sense, being the teams that the Texans should try to entertain talks with, were the Jets and the Miami Dolphins. The rationale being those 2 teams either A, have a potential franchise quarterback the Texans could get back, and or have a top 3 pick to draft one with. So for the Jets and Dolphins, if you're Houston and you're simply trying to maximize your return on Watson, and you're not really about sending him to a lesser team or out of the AFC altogether, the Jets and Dolphins do make the most sense as a potential destination for Deshaun Watson. The other teams that McClain put together, the Carolina Panthers, of course, one that's been discussed plenty, kind of a homecoming of sorts for Watson. They seem to have plenty of interest, of course, as well. The 49ers, who, if you want to send them to the NFC, makes some sense, but they're drafting the latest of these 5 teams. And then the Denver Broncos as well. Now, as a reminder, McClain has said that Denver is not going to be able to get Deshaun Watson because Drew Lock and the 8th overall pick and first rounders, or the 9th overall pick, that's not the best offer that if Miami and New York got involved would be able to put together. It is almost St. Patrick's Day, so if you're looking for some St. Patrick's Day themed gear available, go over to chatsports.com/St. Patrick's. Do not worry, that link will be in the comments and it will be in the description. The Seahawks, a natural fit there, of course, for the green, but they got them for all 32 NFL teams. They are available at chatsports.com/St. Patrick's. And don't worry, link will be in the comments and in the description, so all you guys got to do is click and go shop. Perfect in case you're able to do anything this St. Patrick's Day, and of course in the future. That way you can dress up appropriately for the themed day and still rep your favorite NFL team in the process. Let's talk now 17-game season here for the NFL. Peter King reports that a 17-game season is highly likely for 2021. Not a huge surprise. This has been, again, relatively expected here. The league calendar, King reports, by the way, is set to be moved back a week. No extra bye week added. That means the Super Bowl occurs on February 13th next year, hypothetically speaking. On top of that, Peter King also mentions that the AFC is likely to host the extra game in 2021. Now, they'll rotate AFC then NFC, AFC then NFC. It's also fairly weird because the crossover games are not like as patterned as you might think. Like you could think, oh, well, maybe they'll just put the East teams this year, the North teams against the North teams. Not what they would be doing. So we do know, though, what the matchups would be. So let's go matchup by matchup here, right? It is the AFC hosting. So NFC East taking on the AFC East. Washington at Buffalo. Giants at Dolphins. Cowboys at Patriots. Eagles at Jets. This is ordered, of course, by where the teams finish. So the number 1 seed in the NFC East. It's the number 1 seed in the AFC East. Moving on now here. Seahawks at Steelers. Pretty intriguing. Rams at the Baltimore Ravens. Cardinals at Browns. Niners at the Bengals there. So moving on here. The Saints at the Titans. Kind of intriguing depending on what the quarterback situation looks like for New Orleans. Bucks at the Colts. Oh, Brady against the Colts. That's a fun one right there. The Panthers at the Texans. And then the Falcons at the Jags. So potentially could be Trevor Lawrence against Matt Ryan at quarterback. The Packers at the Chiefs. I think the best one of this group. That's an awesome game. That one, I promise you, will be hyped as a potential Super Bowl preview. The Bears at the Raiders, call it the Khalil Mack revenge game. The Vikings at the Chargers, and then the Lions at the Broncos, which exists. Not the most sexy matchup if we're being honest there.